So I'll call this continued meeting from June 11th, 2025 of the North Bennington Prudential Committee order. And the first order of business is we have some agenda amendments to, this is continuation meeting, and we have some changes that we have to deal with. So the agenda as it's stated, is public comments. Second item is finance, which has under it two items: a tax anticipation note and the ESND lease extension. But there are two other items we need to add to that, which we can do that now before we start our business. One of those is that we ratify the tuition agreement for FY26, the upcoming school year, which has been attached in the information I sent out to you. Tim and I signed this very recently, but would like the board to ratify it. The document is attached in the email I sent earlier today. And the third item the second item to be added, so the fourth item on the agenda would be to review and vote to pay the expenses for the building for FY25 that I reviewed. I sent you the whole listing that Tim had sent out, and then I sent out a letter with what I think I can see is appropriate to pay, and we need to add that to the agenda. So to review that and approve it. So I'll accept the motion to add the review and approval of the FY26 tuition agreement with the village school, and a second addition, which will give us our fourth item on the agenda to review and approve payment to the village school for building expenses that we can consider the landlords under our lease agreement.
I'll make a motion, Ray.
Thank you, Karen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lenny. So, any discussion of these items? Hearing none offered, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's all three of us. So we'll add those two items to the agenda. Now we'll start over at public comments. I don't see public comments offered, so it'll be offered. So we'll go on to the meat of the agenda, and the first item under finance is tax anticipation note, which I have in front of me, and you have, everybody should have that as an attachment. The North Bennington Greater School District TAN-LOC loan. And Doug, we'll have to be signing this sequentially, since not everybody is here. I can sign my parts.
Right. Yeah. So I'll kind of go over a few things, and then Renee can jump in if she needs anything. Before I start, Renee, I think the motion that's going to have to be made at the end is to approve the proper folks, which is treasurer, board chair, and clerk, to sign the documents as presented, correct? That will cover what Dina needs for her. Is that correct?
The committee will need to act upon the resolution. So that would be the first thing, and then approve the actual borrowing.
Okay,
Typically, we waive the reading of the resolution,
Yeah,
but it just has to be adopted. Then, authorizing the chair, treasurer, and clerk to sign that, and then the borrowing as a separate motion of the $400,000
okay.
line of credit.
Perfect. So everybody has the documents. I'll just kind of do a quick brief summary. And then we'll see if we have a motion to do those two things. And then after those are approved, I'll follow up with a couple of quick points and thoughts. So the tax anticipation note itself is very similar to years past. This year it is in the amount of $400,000. As you'll remember, a couple months ago when this process started, I looked to try to go up from the 300 that we've done the past couple years for two reasons. One, we don't know when the 200,000 or 203, whatever the amount is that the district will have to pay for the air quality project at the village school building. So I wanted to make sure we could cover that if the billing came in prior to September. And also in September, the first state payment is due. I don't know what the date is going to be that it actually comes from the state. So again, I wanted to build in a little bit of a cushion there. So that's where that comes from. It is the same as years past. I will contact M&T when we need it based on checks that are going to be cut in any given month. We are not billed any interest on unused portions throughout or at the end. So if we only end up having to draw 200,000 of it, we're only billed interest from the day we use it to the day we pay it back. One slight difference this year, M&T has it set up for a 1 year, so it would go through June 30th of 2026. However, we are going to pay it back in full in December upon receipt of full taxes paid. And I've already spoken to the rep at M&T. That's no problem. And it will just be considered paid in full by us, but still just kind of sit there. The interest rate is a variable rate. I did look it all up. I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically, if we were to draw on it right now, it's 5.19 would be the breakdown. When we started, it was a little closer to 6. Interest rates obviously are down a little bit right now, so it'll vary based on when it's drawn out. So that's kind of the breakdown there. Other than that, there's really no changes to the note itself and the borrowing from years past. The district attorney, Dina, is involved again this year, as was last year slightly. This year was a little bit more. I'll talk about that shortly. So these documents have been reviewed by myself, by Renee, and by the attorney. And then obviously you've seen the draft, and then you saw the final, which came out about a little after 2:00 today. So unless there's any other questions, I think we can move to the two motions, which the first would be to approve the resolution and then approve the borrowing.
okay. So I'll accept a motion to approve the resolution to enter into this agreement with M&T.
Motion.
All right,
second.
and I need a second. Thank you. And so I guess we can go ahead and vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's all three of us, okay. So that will allow me to, as the board chair, to execute it. The treasurer also signs, and the clerk will also attest to our signatures. Then the second part of this is the actual borrowing and the actual notes. And that's in the potential amount of $400,000, but it is actually what we actually borrow that we and then pay interest on at the rates that Doug talked about. So, except looking for a motion to approve executing the tax anticipation line of credit note.
No motion.
I'll second.
Okay, that's no comments to be made about that. I think we'll just go ahead to calling the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 So that's unanimous. And again, that's Doug, myself, and Lori signing this as being properly executed. And finally, there's a place for
It's a certificate that. Doug has to
Perfect.
sign.
yeah, Doug has to sign a
Yep.
certificate.
So I'm going to stop in tomorrow. Lori, are you able to stop at SVSU
Oh,
office
thanks.
tomorrow during the day?
Yes, who do I see?
I can leave it right at the front desk if that's easiest.
Sure, and it doesn't matter when I go?
Nope, we're here 7:30 to 4.
Okay, that's great. I'll do that, sure.
Perfect.
And it's all laid out with where your signatures go, Lori. And
Okay.
you have yellow tabs. Okay. All right. So that takes care of the tax anticipation note. We have the lease extension.
Ray,
Yes.
just before you
Sorry.
move on, I just want to make a couple of quick comments.
Yes, sir.
So the process this year for the loan through M&T was very difficult, especially getting to this point of the closing. Renee and I spoke multiple times today, and literally at noontime, we weren't sure if this was going to happen. It was a difficult documentation process from M&T's side. It was a little awkward last year, but this year was worse. So Renee and I have spoken about a couple of different options moving forward. So what I'm going to do is on the August meeting, because we don't have a July meeting, I'm going to have a agenda item to discuss putting out an RFP for banking services to move from M&T Bank.
Okay. Why are they making it so difficult? Do you have any idea of that?
The short answer is nobody is local anymore.
Okay.
They have a small staff that works at the branch over by the Staples. However, they're tellers and new account reps. So government banking and municipal banking and commercial banking, there's nobody here. The gentleman we dealt with mostly has an office in Rutland. I don't know if that's his primary office. But then there was somebody looped in, I believe, from Connecticut at one point in time in the process. So I think this is the going down the trail of People's being bought out by M&T.
Sure.
We're 2 full years away, so now we're in the full M&T process.
Okay.
Last year was a little taste, and I think they were kind of easing things along, and now we're all the way into M&T, and it's you know, a very
all the decision making is being pushed upstream, and nobody knows, and it takes a lot longer because they're dealing with much greater volume there.
Yep. And then on top of that, there was some weird things of how they handle their documentation. I'm comfortable with the documentation that we're signing because, like I said, it was reviewed by the attorney, myself, and Renee. But how we got there is not how I'm used to things being done in the banking world.
Yeah.
And Renee agreed, and Dina agreed that it was a very strange process. Like I said, if we weren't comfortable with it, we wouldn't have been bringing it up. And that's why I wanted to wait until after everything was done, because I didn't want anybody to think that the loan that we're going into is any different than what we've done. It's the process of how we got there that was very different.
Yep. I appreciate your comments and your observations, and from both of
This-
you, because he's
Doug, is this
relaying
something-
your comments as well. Yep. Lonnie?
Go ahead, Lonnie.
So what you're talking about floating in August, is this something like a loan that we'll be able to transfer possibly to another bank? Or is this something, are these loans that we pay out kind of yearly and we would start the process again entirely with a different bank?
Yep. So the way a tax anticipation note works is it's based on the district's ability to raise taxes. So that resets every year. So this is basically a 1 year. Usually, like I said, in years past, it's been paid either December 1st or December 31st, however they wanted to run it. It's paid in full and closed out, and it's done and over, and then you do a new one. This time they said, we're doing it for a year. That way there, if you need it. Well, that's not really how we need to do it. So once we pay it in December, it'll be closed. Even if they choose to keep it open, which is where it is, we would still need to do a new one next year, because it's based on the ability to raise taxes for that coming fiscal year. So yeah, it's a little bit different than other commercial borrowing, because like I said, it's based on the tax anticipation piece of the district.
Doug,
Thank you.
does Bank of Bennington or Heritage have the capacity of being able to handle all that still as well?
So I will word it this way. Renee and I have discussed this, and there are several local institutions that we will be sending the RFP to.
Okay.
Yep. I appreciate your concerns, which are basically about the process, not really about the money. It and the repayment terms and all that. It's just that they've made it very difficult to process this, and it seems like it should be a relatively easy thing, given
I
that.
was gonna say, I don't remember it being this difficult in the past.
No.
So wherever we can
Then
get it, that makes it easier would be
You
obviously less
didn't
headache for you.
see, yeah, you saw maybe a fraction of what we've been dealing with for several weeks and
Okay.
months.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, I'm just, yeah, so, I think we've done with the tax anticipation note, except for signing. I help to sign, and then, Lori has to come over and sign, and Doug has some signing to do. So this will remain here, basically. Since
Correct.
Lori's-
Yep. So Lori and I will sign tomorrow. Renee will get it off to the folks that it needs to get to. Dina will complete her attorney opinion letter tomorrow based on the board's 2 motions this evening and approvals, and that will wrap that up. And then once M&T receives that within the next couple of days, then we can use it. And we don't need to use it right now. So there's not an immediate rush, which is why signing it tomorrow and Dina completing her attorney opinion letter tomorrow all works perfectly fine.
Okay. All right, so, lease extension. Fine. Find myself getting confused. So, all right, so the next item on here is to ratify the lease extension from June 2024 to 2029 between North Bennington Graded School District and the Village School of North Bennington. This has not changed. Nothing in the lease has changed. It's just the term that is changing. We still have a security deposit of $6,500 plus whatever accrued interest there is on that. And everything in the lease is unchanged. If you had any specific questions, I'd be happy to address them, but you have a copy of the lease there. You can read through it. And we've made no alterations to it. We do have one addition to it, every year we do an addendum to the lease because we deal with the uncertainty of enrollment at village school. So we have a pact basically where certain we've agreed to a particular number that we think they're going to have for the next year. And then if we had over that number, we get the ability to have some free tuition over a certain gap above, jump above that number. But generally, it's ended up being less than that number over the past few years. So we allow some adjustments to the amount of money paid into the lease based on those shortfalls. That's the lease addendum. But the actual lease is what we're agreeing to now for the we've been at any rate, that lease that, let me remind you of the conditions, it's for $78,000 a year total. And there's a security deposit, which the district calls. And there are various conditions, obligations, of course. And it's a it used to be called a triple net lease. I don't know if that's terms in use anymore, but basically the building responsibility is for the structural, and I think of it as the infrastructure of the building, whereas the interior surfaces and appearance of the building can be altered by the tenant, providing they let us know and we can agree with what they're going to do. So we do a lot of operational expenses are assigned to the lessee. The lessor. No, we're the lessor. The lessee, yes. And for electricity, fuel oil, and maintenance of systems that are needed to operate for heat, lighting, and so forth. But as the lessor, we take responsibility for things that have to be there for it to be approved to operate at a school, and we've maintained those systems. So
Ray,
later on in this meeting, yes.
just a quick question. Does I didn't look at the lease all the way through. Does the lease reference the term triple net or not?
No, it doesn't reference that. That's just the way we thought of it. The actual discussion of these items is in the lease itself. It's, let me see if I can get to a point here that will public use.
So then my only suggestion would be that we should not use the term triple net, because under a true triple net, the tenant would be paying all maintenance costs.
Okay.
And they don't do that. So I think we just need to be careful in using that term to reference anything.
Yeah, okay. I don't care about the term. The terms are defined in the lease.
Okay.
So for maintenance, it says lessee covenants that it will maintain and use leased premises clean, safe, orderly manner, compliance with all applicable laws, etc. Make promptly all repairs for damage to leased premises caused by negligence, willful act, lack of care, pay operating expenses, various assessments, and that any liability, any alterations to the interior are done at their expense. And that includes signs. Those are done at their expense with the approval of the lessor. They also have to maintain insurance, and that's specified under there. in the lease and make no structural alterations without approval and acceptance by the lessor. Yep. And the use is confined to using it for educational purposes and having approval by the state of the operations of the school as an independent school under the laws of the state. And then there's, of course, coverage for fire, etc. And the lessor covers the building property per se. The lessee covers all its personal property and things that it maintains within the building. Okay, is that clear enough? You could read it all and in the lease that has been sent to you.
Yeah, no, I just was wanting to just be sure that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, it's just the way I was given to refer to it initially.
Okay.
11 years ago, 12 years ago. And, but the actual terms of the lease define what it is. And we have to listen to, pay attention to those. Okay? So, I'd like a motion to approve the extension to 2029.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next item was okay, so the next item on the agenda is, what did I say?
The tuition,
The tuition agreement. Okay, so we need, we have tuition agreement with the village school, which is, something we need to have every year because we have this lease with them. And also, we have, we agree to the tuition that they say that they need in order to operate. So we have a lease, a tuition agreement. And I included the current one, 24-25, but the one that's appropriate to approve, since the other has been approved and we've been operating under, is the one for next year. It's pretty much identical except certain things that refer to dates and times and the amount of the tuition change. That is included. It sets the tuition rate at $21,350, which was what was on the ballot and was approved. It sets a upper cap of 90 students, but the actual number of students that we are going to be billed for starting in July is for 82 students. Times that rate of 350 divided by 11 payments. So it goes from July to May. There are the agreement deals with a census in October, which is the standard census for elementary schools in the state, of the number of students that are enrolled. In the 15th to 30th days.
11
to 30th, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And that number is important later when you're going to figure out your budget for next year, because it sets the number, it helps determine the long-term weighted average of students for the district. So we start off paying as if we have, paying for 82 students, and then in October, we adjust for the actual number of students that the census shows. And then at a point in February, I'll remind you, we review again the actual enrollments. And this past year, there was no change. If there's no change, then there's no change in the number, in the size of the payment. Otherwise, we may further adjust it. And we end up at the end of May, when we paid our last payment, we will pay for exactly the number of students that were there who were members of our district over the year. And that's basically the way it goes. I don't know if there's anything else to mention specifically. You can read it for yourself, and if you have any questions, you can tell me about it. But those are the basic structure of the lease, of the tuition agreement. Of course, it's subject to maintaining approvals from the state for under its laws and regulations for independent schools and an approved independent school. And that approval is usually started out being a NEASC approval. Now it's the AINSNE, which is I forget the description of that. It's a New England based a New England based what? It's like NEASC, but it's
Association for Independent.
Association for Independent Schools in New England, right? And they do an extensive review of the program every on a period basis, and they've done that very recently, and school gets very good results. So I'd accept a motion to approve the tuition agreement with the village school for fiscal year 26.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's the tuition agreement. And the final item on the business is to review the building expenses for the year that we kind of let, since they operate the building, they usually are dealing with people that need where they need particular services that may affect our costs under the lease. And so we tend to pay these as a reimbursement at the end of the year, although in this case we paid some at the beginning of the year this year. So we tend to settle up at this point in time at the end of the year, try to get them reimbursed out of our fiscal year monies. And Tim sent me a list, which I forwarded to you all. And I reviewed this, and I sent you my, if I can find it, I sent you a letter. Yes, a review the expenses that I was looking over, and I arrived at a number of $4,314.84, and it's specifies which ones I think we're paying out of that list, paying for out of that list. I don't know if Brittany's gonna need more detail from me or not. Is she gonna want specific invoices?
If we can get them, that's wonderful, but typically we just use what you give us,
Right.
as backup.
Okay, so, I won't go through all these expenses because we're running late from my perspective, since I'm supposed to be in another meeting. But, do you have any, have you read it, and if you have any questions about what my choices were? We have brief discussion on it, so.
I trust your decisions, Ray.
Well, that's frequently a difficult thing to do for myself. But thank you. I appreciate that. I think I've got good reasons for what I'm doing, but it's possible that there are things I'm missing here. Because there certain things weren't described very well from my perspective. Okay, so
Or he's getting ready to wrap up.
all right. So I'll accept a motion to approve my letter, which sets out what we will pay. And,
So, yeah, what is it, 43,1484, so $4,314.84. We'll pay that out of the.
we'll pay it out of the
contingency.
board's contingency. We have enough money there. I know that. I just checked it earlier.
That's what we'll do, and then we'll
Right.
put that 203 into the reserve to
Yes,
hold
ma'am.
it.
And we're doing it this way because we reserved the $203,000 for contribution of the district to the ventilation project that's ongoing at the school. And the project depends on that amount of money. So we've maintained that in reserve. And we'll pay it out when we're requested to. Right now, I think they have plenty of money coming from Efficiency Vermont for this project, but there will be the requirement for this. That's why we're taking it out of the board's instead.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I won't here to ask questions unless Doug has questions.
I have a question. Renee, would you just repeat the amount again, please?
$4,314.84.
Thank you.
All right. All in
And Ray,
favor?
no, that looked fine, what you had sent out to me. I didn't have any additions or subtractions that I thought.
Okay. Great. Thanks. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
See you in August.
Assignment.